idea to do this topic, taking accountability without shame, came to me after a fight I had with my partner. I had made a mistake and hurt them. In the midst of this conflict, when I was confronted about what I'd done, I started to see a deep shame arise. I couldn't resist telling them that I'm such a bad partner, what's wrong with me, why am I so inconsiderate, all that fun mental chatter. They began to disagree with me, tell me I'm a great partner, I just made a mistake, and I shouldn't call myself that. I had a huge resistance to what they were saying. I put up a wall. I didn't want to allow myself to believe them. I got angry because they were using their energy to comfort me when I was the one who hurt them. They shouldn't be making me feel better. I don't deserve to feel better, I thought. I couldn't separate what I'd done from who I was. I saw my actions as intel on who I was as a person. Because I could do that to hurt you, there must be something wrong with me. I was so mad at myself, thinking of every what if of what I should have done differently. During this fight, I remember asking my partner to tell me in detail how I'd hurt them. And you might be thinking, oh, that's nice, she wants to understand their point of view, but that wasn't necessarily the case. I think it's important to allow someone to express their feelings, but I was asking for it specifically out of a place of self-punishment. I wanted them to make me hurt as bad as I'd hurt them. Even though they weren't wanting that for me, I assumed they did. Shame and being hard on yourself go hand in hand. It wasn't the first time I'd made this mistake, which sent the shame even higher, because I must not have learned the first time, I thought. I thought that the solution to this was just to shame myself more because I guess it didn't work enough. I couldn't accept that I had just made a mistake. It had to do with something about who I am. The longer it took them to forgive me, the more shame built up over time. I couldn't forgive myself. I felt like I deserved the constant self-punishment. The only way to make it up to them was if I was always making myself hurt and feeling awful for what I'd done. Even though they didn't want that from me, I had kind of assumed in my mind that that's what they wanted and that's what they expected. After this fight, I started to think about how I could show somebody I was sorry for my actions while not needing to involve extreme self-deprecation. The realization came to me that as a child, my apologies were usually only accepted if I was clearly beating myself up over what I'd done. I realize now that if someone will only forgive me if I'm beating myself up over it, I don't want that forgiveness. I thought that I would only learn to not make the mistake again if I made myself feel bad enough that it would become engraved in my head. I had made a mistake, but I made myself out to be the mistake. A few hours after the fight, I began to realize how much shame had taken over and how I was punishing myself. So I paused and apologized to myself. My shame had clouded my ability to take action on working through this issue with my partner. I was using all my energy to degrade myself, that I had no energy left to think of action steps to approach healing this conflict. When I came to this awareness, I grabbed my journal and started to think of how I wanted to acknowledge what I'd done in a non-judgmental state. I thought of how my actions might have hurt them and what practices I'm going to put in place so that I don't do it again. I was finally starting to move to an effective way to deal with this conflict, one that had empathy for their side of their story, accountability, and action. There's a way to understand what mistake you made without making yourself out to be a mistake. I'm still learning how to do this, but I want to teach you what I've learned so far on my journey.